Well, good morning and welcome to our weekly webinar. This is Patrick Halstead at Qdabra Software. Thank you for joining us. If you tried to join this webinar last week, my sincere apologies. We had a bit of a technical snafu with GoToWebinar with 2 webinars during that day, and I'm sorry if you were not able to attend. We're doing it again. That's why we're doing it today. So today we are talking about our new qRules 7.2 release. This went live last week, so it went live on the day we were supposed to do the webinar. That was Thursday. And I want to go through some of the new release information, talk to you about the new commands we have available in 7.2, and talk a little bit about where qRules came from and where it's going. So first off, I'm seeing some strange pop-ups. I need to take a look at my machine again, but we just updated Windows and Office this morning, so hopefully everything's going to be just fine. qRules is an Infopath enhancer. We have been working on it for many years, and it works 2007, 2010, 2013 versions of SharePoint and Infopath. Works both in the filler and the browser. It helps you add common missing features to your forms, so it fills those gaps that are in the out-of-box solution. Specifically, it allows you to submit your repeating data to lists, and that can be multiple lists. It could be lots of different lists. It helps you extract attachments. It helps you take those images and move them to a SharePoint picture library. It helps you get input parameters from one form to another and pass data between them. There's lots of commands for dealing with tables, copying data from hither, thither, and beyond. You've also got stuff that does difference calculations between 2 dates if you have holidays in between, and tons of stuff. Lots of commands. We've got over 150 different commands. So that's what qRules is. It really is there because you've got a lot of work to do, and rather than hire a developer to extend your forms, we've got a solution for you. It's very low cost. We try to get it updated twice a year these days, and we have a future migration path. So for those of you who are worried about the sandbox, which qRules requires, qRules is code, even though it's generic. The sandbox may be going away in a few years from now. Maybe it's 2017, 2018. Microsoft keeps updating it. It seems like it's going to be supported for quite a while in SharePoint on-prem, about 10 years from now, and that's because Microsoft is shipping the Sandbox and Infopath Form services again in 2016. The Sandbox allows you to run code in the browser. That's what it's used for. But anyway, we've got FormsViewer out there today, and that's going to be a sandbox-less approach. You can use qRules commands in your forms in FormsViewer. We've talked about that in previous webinars. So once again, when you're extending Infopath, you tend to want to write a library, some kind of a set of commands that you're going to use in your form to do these extended advanced operations. You'll have to write code. You'll have to bring a developer on. Rather than do this, rather than hard code each extension to a specific form template, we recommend using our common qRules library, and that's helps you fill those gaps. No dev is required. The commands themselves are data-driven, so they're not going to be tightly coupled to one form template. You're going to be able to use the same qRules library for all of your form templates, and that lowers your cost, makes your maintenance easy. We have been working very hard on qRules for many, many years. In fact, here's the release history. So we started working on this, I want to say back in 2008, and we had a bunch of very, I guess, interim early releases back then. It started off as an answer to the frequently asked questions in our forum, and specifically, how do I do this? So we just got tired of answering all of those questions, and we just said, well, here, just do it with this. And after a while, we realized that we needed to actually charge people something for it because they kept asking us for help implementing it. It's very easy to use these days, but anyway, we do fund our forum, infopathdeb.com, which is getting 60,000 plus unique visitors per month now. We help answer your questions, and we use the proceeds of qRules to do that. We also give you a free hour of support. So it's not free. There's a free trial available, You get it for free if you take our training class, but it is a small amount of money, and then there's a renewal if you want to upgrade every year. So that's what qRules is. That's the history behind it. You can see that we've done lots of different things. This delta column, over the years, this delta column is the number of new commands or changes to commands within that release. So you can see that we've been trying to get 2 to 3 releases out a year. This year it's going to be 2. Last year was just 1. We had 2 releases in 2013, 4 in 2012, 4 in 2011, and you can see 4 in 2010 as well. So we've been reducing the amount of updates because we just haven't found a lot of new stuff to really incorporate. Every time we find a new feature or a new bug fix, we change qRules, and that's why we're doing these updates. Specifically, we have new commands in 7.2 that came out of a project, actually 2 projects that we did to integrate Infopath with a JSON-based web service. XML has been kind of the most popular web service out there today. SOAP web services, REST web services, they use XML to send data back and forth. JSON uses a different format. It's isomorphic or equivalent to XML in many ways. And so what we've done, because there are new web services like Zendesk out there that only take JSON input, we decided to incorporate those commands into qRules so you can use your Infopath forms to connect to a JSON-based web service. And this is a very powerful feature because we do see a lot of web services today using JSON. We also include a couple other commands in this release, list input parameters, get view info. I'm going to demo these in a second. In addition, we update a command, that's the refresh SharePoint list items. If you're using qRules to map your data to a SharePoint list, refresh SharePoint list items can help you retrieve the updates from that list and incorporate them in your form. Okay, so let's take a quick look at these. I'm going to do a demo in a second. And in fact, let's do the demo right now. I've got 2 demos to show you today. And first off, we have a browser form in 2013 that's going to show these 2 new commands. 2 of the 6 new commands, or the 5 new commands. And you can see that this form is a qRules form. It's in the browser. It's on our 2013 SharePoint on-prem site. We're going to show 2 commands in this form. Actually, the form has 3 commands in it. Let me show you the form quickly in the designer. What is Citrix doing? Okay. Hopefully, we do not need that new plugin from our friends GoToWebinar to continue the webinar. Okay, so the qRules sample form here that you see has 3 commands in it. One command is this generate GUID command that you see on open. Whenever you have a qRules enabled form and you want to actually run commands when the form loads, you don't want to put them on the form load command, right? You don't want to put them here. You actually want to hang those commands off finish loading in the qRules secondary data source. The reason for that is that there's a bunch of initiation that happens when you launch your form. And in order to make sure that qRules finishes all that initialization of your form, you need to make sure you put your commands here. And that's what we've done. So we know the form, qRules is working because the first thing it does on open is it calls generate GUID, and it gives you that result. Sometimes you want to uniquely identify your form, and we have the generate GUID command that allows you to do that. It generates a globally unique ID. That's what GUID stands for. And you can see it did that in this case. If I were to open it up again, it would, of course, give us a different GUID. I'm not sure what's going on with this NTVDM thing. That's crazy. Okay, so here's the generate GUID command again with a different parameter, different value. So let's take a look at these other commands. You can see that when I click on this button, it's actually running the get view info command. And you can see that I'm on view 1, and that's the view of the form. If I go back to the designer, you can see that on page design, that is view 1, right? I could also switch to Rima's test view. but you can see it's returning the name of the view. If I look at the input parameters, you can see that this, because it's a browser-based form, we have a lot of input parameters in this URL. If you look at the URL at the very far end, you'll see that anything that has a question mark before it or an ampersand is an input parameter. For example, XSN location is one input parameter, and you can see that is equal to the location of the actual library, the template. But we have other commands. We have the save location and so on. Now, why is this important? Well, sometimes you want to pass values to your form. You want to say, hey, form, please open. And by the way, when you open, please fetch this document ID from the database. SharePoint libraries handle upwards of 5,000-10,000 forms, but they don't scale to millions. So if you've got a form solution that needs to be scalable, you'll want to put the data in the database using our other tool set called DBXL, and then pass the doc ID to your form in the browser that loads that form dynamically from your data set, not from the library. So that's a very common usage, and those are two of the new commands that we've implemented in 7.2. I'm going to switch to another demo. If you get questions, please send them in the question area, and we'll be answering them in a minute or two. Let's see if I can find my second demo here. Okay, so my second demo is a test form that Rima put together. Rima Dog is on our call today, and she's going to help me with questions in a second. Rima is our qRules tester, and she put together this form that allows you to test the connection with Zendesk. So we're going to test those other commands, and specifically what I'm going to demo next is those commands that connect to a JSON Web service. So here's the form in the designer. When I submit a request, you're going to see that we have a bunch of different commands here that are going to convert the XML to the JSON format. And this is all document. I'll show you the document in a second. And it's going to then make the request to the JSON Web service. And then finally, it's going to actually back convert the JSON to XML so we can display the ticket ID in the form and show that interaction. So we can both submit and query. This works not only for JSON but also for REST web services that make request command. So let's take a look at what this does. Before we do that, let's actually take a look at our Zendesk screen here. You can see that there haven't been any tickets this morning. In fact, the last ticket was this September 24th demo that I did that was supposed to have more people in it, but nobody could figure out how to go to the webinar. So we're going to do it again. And here's our form in the preview. So I'm going to put in my name, and let's just put in Wile E. Coyote here. Actually, let's do Tweety Bird. I don't know why Citrix is trying to do this to me this morning with the strange NTVDM pop-ups. We can just continue ignoring them because we're almost done with our demo. Stop the NTVDM madness. Okay, obviously there's some strange thing that Citrix has installed that we're not supposed to be running, but we're just going to ignore that, continue going. So you can see here that when I submit the command, one thing that I recommend you do with your qRules forms is actually add the command history to your forms, and that's going to show you everything that ran in the form and whether it was successful or not. And you can see in this case it was not successful. So we actually failed, and when it fails, it's going to give you a checkbox. The success will be unchecked. I'm not sure why it didn't fail. It might be because we're not logged in. Of course, we should read the error message because it's worked just a minute ago or a week ago. This is a remote server returned an error. So that's strange. We're going to try this again here, though. We're going to try it again, and we're going to put in our email just on the off chance that that might have been the issue. And the same exact tweet here. Run it again. And you can see this is going to add to that command history. And this time it was successful, so it must have been that email is required. Let's take a look at Zendesk. And we're just going to refresh, ignoring the strange Citrix pop-ups. And here you can see that there's our new tweet less than a minute ago. And if we go back to our form in the preview, you'll see that we actually have an ID. Where's the ID? The ID is returned in the form. We're not showing it here, but it's actually in the form in the result. And I believe if we look at the command history, we'll see it, maybe not. And to add the command history to your form, what you're going to do is, in the designer, you're going to just drag and drop that command history from qRules, the execution history. You just drag and drop that into your form. And it will then automatically show you all the history. This is great for debugging. So if you have a qRules form and you need to understand why is it not working, just the first thing you always want to do is drag that history into your form and then redo the form, see what the dump is, and usually the error message will tell you why it didn't succeed, as it did with me this morning. So lastly, I want to just show you the qRules command overview. This is the document that comes when you install the free trial of qRules or you have the product. And this is very helpful. You can reference this by just going to qRules command. So qRules command overview. This is a great document to refer to when you're trying to develop and use qRules functionality. And you see we've broken this up into lots of different areas. There are, like I said, a ton of qRules commands, approximately 150, 160 of them. We've been adding a lot of them over the years, and you can get detailed command information as well as resources by reading this document. And you don't have to read all the command. You don't have to read all 64 pages. You can just jump to the command that you want. So for example, if I want to look at the XML, the new XML to JSON support, I can just search this document and it'll tell me, okay, so this command converts XML in the Forms data sources to JSON. It doesn't have to be your main data source. You can actually convert a secondary data source. And there's a couple examples, and it gives you a document that you can go to look at the conventions of the XML. And that's how you use it. Another example would be if we wanted to look at the date diff command, we could just search for it. And this calculates the difference between two dates, and you can see how we'd use the command. If we want to specify holidays, we can specify a data source that contains those holidays. It could be a SharePoint list, for example. And you can see we have some examples there of how to run it. So that's qRules 7.2. And we did the two demos. I'm going to switch back to my presentation. If there are questions, now is a great time to ask them. We will be posting this video on YouTube, and we've got a quick question for you, actually. And I want to quickly jump in just one question, and that is how many people are using? What was your first version of qRules? For those of you who are using qRules, you can answer this question here. And that's what's your current version, your first version of qRules. And we'll take a moment here and gather some feedback. We've got a few people that have been on 5.1. It looks like 75% of you. We got 45%, 50% voted. So we'll go another 10 seconds here. If you haven't voted, chime in. We're almost done with the webinar, and this is a question to you on which version of qRules are you using. It looks like most of you, 57%, are using 5.1 or earlier. I want to thank you for being a qRules customer. We're here to help you in your forms, and we also have a quick poll afterwards. We're going to send you these samples along with the command overview for 7.2. If you have any questions whatsoever, now is a great time to ask them. We appreciate your service and attendance to these webinars. And if there's anything else we can do in qRules, please don't hesitate to let us know. Thanks for being here. Looks like we have no questions, so I'm going to end the webinar, but you can always email us at support@qdabra.com. And like I said, everything's going to be on YouTube in a short while. Have a great day.